As I said before, bosses are like tests to the player, so that would mean the first boss of a video game is very important. Like the first level, the first boss establishes tone of the game, it tests what you've learned or what you need to know, and also gives you a good taste of what's to come. It also has to have a balanced difficulty. After all, dying can really take you out of the world the game is trying to create, and this is especially dangerous during the first level, when the game is trying its best to appeal to you. Now to the rules. If the first boss is something that becomes a basic monster later, I'm not counting it. Also, if there's only one boss in the game, I'm not counting it. Sorry, Gladys.
You monster.
The beginning of Metroid Prime excels at establishing how the game is going to play out. This entire level, aboard an abandoned space frigate, teaches you how to play by cleverly incorporating the story into the tutorial, and builds on a tense atmosphere where everything aboard the frigate seems to be Ridley Scotted.
No pun intended.
Yeah, right.
Shut up!
After delving deeper, we finally see what is the cause of the whole thing. The Parasite Queen. This boss isn't terribly challenging, seeing as it's completely stationary, telegraphs its attacks, and the shield gimmick is fairly easy to think around. That said, it's not supposed to be. It's an introduction to bosses that you'll be facing and wants to ease you into the game's world. So throwing something super combat-oriented and challenging in a game that wants to focus more on the atmosphere and exploration seems pretty counterintuitive. I don't think I've ever enjoyed a music game as much as I have Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock. It has one of my favorite track lists I've heard in a rhythm game, and I'll always remember the ground it broke with the addition of Dragon Force and Metallica songs, a silly story, and boss battles. These boss battles introduced a new way of dueling another player in Guitar Hero by winning power-ups to effectively sabotage the other player off the stage. My talks with friends pretty much went like this.
Now, who's up for
What did we used to do together?
playing some video games and raging against the machine?
This is fitting, because the first boss of Guitar Hero is Tom Morello. His battle song is so quirky and unconventional, you'd swear he was playing other instruments in addition to the guitar.
Oh, people have accused him of that. Look it up.
This boss fight is a challenge because it carries the same characteristics of a racing boss. They can run the track perfectly unless you can force them to screw up, which is not easy. In order to screw them up, you have to play perfectly yourself.
I figured if I was actually in the game, then I get to play on an electric guitar, and those kids got to try to keep up with that. So they can press all those blue and yellow buttons all they want, and let's see. Here we go, it's on.
Ho 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 ho! Challenge accepted. I'll just... Nope. Nope. Nobody, nobody.
Horror video games and horror movies have a lot in common. There are so few that are good, and the genre as a whole has been tainted by those few. So many internet critics complain about horror games not being great, and they're right. Many try so hard to throw all of these disturbing things at you all at once with no breaks or sense of pacing. Silent Hill 2, however... Okay. Some John Carpenter's Illuminati looking guy is slowly edging towards you with Cloud's Buster Sword. Yeah, ain't that some imagery? Your first instinct is to, run, but you can't. So your second instinct is to unload everything you have into him. But he doesn't even flinch! Because you don't see a health bar and he's not flinching, you have no idea if your bullets are hurting him or not, which only makes this battle even more confusing and fearful. The interesting thing about this boss battle is the fact that you have to hug the walls in order to not die, emphasizing the fear of the situation. After unloading enough bullets into it, it just leaves. You are left with many questions. What was that? Why did it leave? Will I have to face this horror again soon? Will I be able to face this horror again soon? Also, why did it feel the need to lower the water level? Seriously, if James Psyche was trying to punish him, wouldn't it be more torturous to have him be unable to progress? It'd punish me, and I'm playing him. Tutorial levels. I wouldn't hate this design choice so much if most of them weren't terrible, and Kingdom Hearts games are some of the worst offenders. Sure, the tutorials usually set up the conflict pretty well, and they can be fun the first time. Then, with repeated playthroughs, the mini-games and overly drawn-out cutscenes become increasingly tiresome, and the flaws with the gameplay and story become harder to ignore.
That was undeniable proof that we totally owned you, lamers.
Howdy do, fellow kids.
That doesn't mean this sucks entirely. In fact, in terms of the actual combat, giving you a taste of what's to come is something Kingdom Hearts is consistently successful with. Example from Kingdom Hearts 2, Twilight Thorn. Kingdom Hearts 2 has been called Triangle Button Simulator by many people. Now that's not true, that's only half of these boss fights. The other part is button mashing. Anyways, many moments in this battle, you have to utilize the reaction command to fend off this boss's attacks in mid-fight cutscenes and in real time, like with future bosses. Admittedly, it's a bit challenging for a first boss. In fact, many of the commands utilized here are harder than future ones, but hey, fight's still fun and silly, even...
Okay, here we go. Top 10 jokes I can make about this guy's arms.
Number 10. Number 9.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Number 8.
Meh.
Zelda game, it's Ghirahim. Boom. Let's talk about this guy's character for a second. Every action this man makes is either awesomely flamboyant or chillingly creepy, adding to the freaky atmosphere of this battle. And then there's...
Yeah, that's the joke I'm going with. If you want to unsubscribe right now, I won't blame you.
Anyways, up until the fight with Ghirahim, previous sword duels in Zelda games were very similar. They involved you having to wait for openings to strike, or wait for them to telegraph their attacks. Basically, you were mostly playing defensively and waiting for your enemy to make a mistake for you to capitalize on. This is the first boss in Zelda that turns that tactic against you. Ghirahim is the one on the defensive, waiting for you to make a mistake. He doesn't do anything until you do something, forcing you on the offensive, but that's just what he wants. If you strike him carelessly, he will effortlessly block you and sometimes even steal your sword from you. In order to beat him, you have to hide your telegraphs and trick him, and even then he could still dodge your attacks. This was a much needed spin on traditional Zelda combat, making it more proactive rather than reactive. But then the battle decides to get rid of that halfway through and give him a sword to do some telegraphed attacks.
It was unique while it lasted?
You challenge me, mortal? A god of Olympus?
This is one of the most impressive first boss battles I've ever faced. Taking the tight gameplay of God of War and making the arena in which you fight on top of a living, breathing, giant earth deity that's clinging to a mountain thousands of feet in the sky?
Impressive.
The first boss of the game, let me remind you, is the god of the sea itself, and also earthquakes, storms, and horses, randomly enough. Most games would dream of having all the build-up in the world to cast him as the final boss. And in this game, it's just to give you a taste of what's in store. Horses made of crabs and water, graphics that are even impressive by today's standards. Oh, and using the most epic of QuickTime events ever conceived. It starts off frighteningly enough as you get to be on the receiving end of Kratos' savage beatdown, but you know what? I'm not even gonna say it. I'm just gonna let the moment speak for itself.
I think I need help. Gosh, I cannot believe I have to mention this game again. Like, after the billionth time. I've mentioned it a billion times, my friends have mentioned it a billion times, everyone's mentioned it a billion times. It's Shadow of the Colossus, alright? I mean, everybody loves to talk about how amazing Shadow of the Colossus is. I mean, I can literally fill the entire screen with all of these links to videos that glorify Shadow of the Colossus. And it's a good game, but I just want to shut up about it. I don't want to talk about it. I mean, I do, but I don't. Ugh.
Something Shadow of the Colossus does really well is build-up. Each battle involves you traversing a landscape in search of the Colossus you're supposed to fight. This peaceful journey is supposed to immerse you in the game's atmosphere, almost like a soothing blanket. Then, your peaceful blanket is disrupted. You feel the vibrations of something very, very big. The music begins to get very ominous. What is this thing?
Make the evil living building!
At first, you're terrified. The game expects you to fight that thing? Luckily, Lord Ancient Nonsensical Gibberish gives you a hint if you happen to not see the giant black miasma coming off the back of his leg. Then, you get to the meat of the game. Climbing up a giant towering creature and hanging on for dear life as it tries to shake you off. Also, special mention to the awesome music that transitions as you climb. This kind of creature is what you are going to face in the future, and from here on out, the monsters only get bigger and better.
You tried. So let's talk about Undertale. So I have this theory that the main character is dead and it was all a dream. How about that?
Anyways, in Undertale, you are given a protector and tutor in the form of Toriel. A motherly figure who wants nothing more than to dote on you with love, care, and cinnamon butterscotch pie. But because you're a child with free will and a thirst for adventure, you want to leave to explore more of this underground. At first, she dodges acknowledging your attempts to leave. Then she says the world is too dangerous. Then, when you insist, she gives you an ultimatum. Stay or fight your way through her.
I swear I saw this in a Stephen King novel once.
Naturally, your insistence on the freedom to make your own choices compels you to fight for it. You have a decision. Either kill the only person who showed you kindness, love, and protection, or refuse to fight and insist on it ending peacefully until she submits.
I should think the choice is simple. Right?
Previous fights in the game were fairly obvious in finding the peaceful solution. Consequently, the majority of players accidentally killed Toriel because of the relative lack of clarity compared to earlier monster encounters. And Arceus help you if you restart the game to spare her.
Don't act so cocky. I know what you did.
You murdered her.
There are two lessons we can learn from Toriel's fight. It shows you that there's always a way, but it's not always clear. The second is that no matter how hard you try, you can never erase the consequences of your actions. The first boss! The first boss of Revengeance is Metal Gear Ray. Yeah, and it somehow manages to become a far better fight than the one with 25 Metal Gear Rays in Metal Gear Solid 2. At least, I think it was 25. It was definitely in the double digits somewhere. Anyways, you're thrust into battle against a giant mecha, and you somehow are able to deflect its fire without looking, destroy its rockets without them exploding, block its giant legs stepping on you, and slice its armor in half in Matrix time. If it's trying to convince me war is horrible, it's not doing a very good job. After the Metal Gear's health gets low enough, the very next moment sets up the tone for the entire game. You stop its giant blade with your dinky katana, hurl it into the air, and... you could play this with any over-the-top action scene, and it would make it 1,000 times more awesome. Imagine it with Dynasty Warriors. Or what about Kingdom Hearts? There are dozens of scenes that would work with it. Or heck, why stop at just video games? We could make TV show fights more awesome.
Nope, still find that incredibly stupid and disappointing.
Oh, now we're taking selling a game with your first boss to its logical extreme. The first boss of Asura's Wrath was literally used in promotional materials, just to show how utterly insane this video game is. Side note, props to the development team for delivering the promise of this boss to us so early. Good job. Wyzen is one of the demigods who betrayed Asura, killed him, villainized him, and stole his daughter to drain her power.
God is a
So after kicking the crap out of Wyzen and some mooks, he grows to the size of a mountain. And guess what? You still wipe the floor with him. The basic gameplay of Asura's Wrath is about building up, well, Asura's Wrath. Only when it reaches its peak can you proceed through the game. For half the fight, you build it up by shooting fireballs at Wyzen while dodging his attacks. The other half is filled with QuickTime events. Now, unlike other games, Asura's Wrath implements them into the combat very cleanly. For one, it constantly throws them at you, so they're difficult to miss. The punishment for failure is only sometimes death. They implement them into the combat so it's never out of place, and some of them are even optional. Yeah, even during a cutscene where Wyzen is running his mouth, a button prompt appears and you get the option to shut Wyzen up. Man, Kingdom Hearts needs a prompt like that.
No matter what you think, what you feel, or
Just give it a rest.
This is a fight that will constantly make you say, holy crap. Like, holy crap, did Asura just grow 4 more arms and blow up a Star Destroyer? Holy crap, did Asura just leap 100 feet into the air and suplex Wyzen? Holy crap, did Asura just tank a 50-ton teabag? Holy crap, did I just bear witness to one of the most epically cartoonish moments in gaming history? Holy crap! And you know what? It gets more ridiculous! Wyzen summons his God form, becoming almost as large as the planet. Gongen Wyzen then decides to smite you with his asteroid-sized finger. And what is Asura's, and by proxy the player's reaction? Come at me, bro!
And it gets more ridiculous.
Asura punches the finger so hard, it causes a chain reaction that travels up the planet-sized Wyzen and causes him to explode.
No. You're not welcome here. This is where the fun people hang out.
Everything about Wyzen is the mark of a perfect first boss. The music was amazing. The battle is absurdly over the top. It's unforgettable, sets up the story, and most of all, he sets up how ridiculous the fights are going to be in the game, begging you to keep playing. If you don't keep playing after this boss fight, you're nuts.
I'm the Fiery Joker, and I've got some gods to slay.
Cut!